Hey guys, welcome back to Daska Discusses. Today I'm going to be discussing a documentary that's been on Netflix only for about a week. It's called The Night Stalker, and it's based on the serial killer back in the 80s called Richard Ramirez. So just so you know, viewer discretion is advised. I'm not going to be showing any footage or images from the documentary, but obviously the subject matter is highly sensitive, so yeah, just thought I'd let you know that. Now, in terms of the actual documentary itself, it it follows. I've got the synopsis right here. Basically, yeah, the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, back in the 80s, a series of rapes and murders in California in the 1980s. Now, there's 4 distinct episodes in this. And what I found with the episodes is that, it goes through different ways of looking at what actually happened. So you've got the policemen involved, you've got the media involved, and you've also got the actual victims that survived involved as well, which again was like harrowing to hear. Now, the 4 episodes are kind of broken down in terms of like the beginning of like certain detectives' kind of story, how this one kind of policeman, his life before that, and then when the actual first murders type kind of happened, and then he gets promoted, and then not spoiling anything about it, but I mean, put it this way, it's just looking at the progression of these cops trying to find this killer. Now, the thing is that it's basically looking at, was it one person or 3? At a certain point, they thought it was 3 people, and I'm not going to get into the actual graphic details why they thought that. I'm just giving you guys a review on the documentary, but I found that the the picture that I'm showing you here, the victims there, the ones that actually come out and speak about what happened, is one of the most powerful scenes, I think, in the whole documentary. The way the media went about it and the way the police went about it and how it all kind of ties in the end. Now, it's interesting how you see how the media kind of got involved with this whole situation. I'm just looking at my notes for a sec, but how the media involved, how local government got involved as well, the whole giving Ramirez the name, the Night Stalker, how that came about, and it kind of like gave me that whole... It made me think about how the media works today and how everyone now with an iPhone, can basically film anything, send it, and then it's on the news that night. And we all know about, what happened in 2020 as well, and what's happening in the world as we speak as well, how it's not just a TV news camera that can capture things, it's all around. And I found that, like in the documentary, you look back at the 80s and before cell phones and all that, and it's just basically the way the media just portrayed Ramirez and made people fear for their lives was, disturbing. And in a way, that's still happens to some extent, the way the media is used. Now, what's interesting about it is that, teaching media studies as well, I'm looking at it from that perspective about how certain stories are portrayed in the media as well. And it just made me think about how back then, how Ramirez was shown in the media. Not that he was glorified, but if you remember, I don't know, maybe was it last year? There was a documentary, the Ted Bundy tapes, and that was a really full-on documentary as well. The way they went about discussing that, and the way they went about, listening to the tapes, they didn't glorify anything. But then the movie came out on, I think it was on Netflix, the one with Zac Efron, and I think the first trailer they really kind of made Bundy, kind of glorified him into this handsome guy. Yeah, they say he was the handsome killer or whatever, but I just didn't like that perspective of it, whereas this doesn't do any of that. It doesn't actually show Ramirez that much at all. I mean, you hear his voice every now and then, and with what he has to say about certain topics, I'm not going to get into what he's on about, because I just feel that I wasn't thinking about doing this review on this documentary, but I had a few friends that were asking me, hey, Daska, have you watched that, Night Stalker thing? What's that about? Now, how, a lot of people don't probably know the name unless, like, you live in America during that time, or, you're into true crime and you know who Ramirez is and Bundy and all that. But looking at the negatives of the show, I think that, in a way, there's been a lot of complaints about the graphic detail of some of the show, and I understand that completely. I'm not really into true crime at all. per se, but the one thing it did remind me of this documentary, the only reason I knew Ramirez was because of an old documentary called The Killing of America that I had to analyze back at university back in the day, and I think this was banned in America as well. It's just basically a whole bunch of news footage and stories of, like, it goes through JFK, goes through the serial killers of, like, America, and it is quite graphic because it shows, like, real life things, right? Now, this documentary, The Night Stalker, reminded me of that, and you've got a lot of people that have complained on Twitter and on Facebook, everything, about how graphic this show is, and I can fully understand that. But I think it's mainly because that people, if you haven't seen things like The Killing of America, or you're not into true crime, and with this Netflix kind of culture that we've got where everything becomes viral and it's trending, etc., the average viewer would turn on The Night Stalker and think, oh yeah, cool, I've watched the Ted Bundy tapes and I've seen that, I should be okay watching this. But I just think that this is a lot different. This is not just, oh yeah, cool, go through the motions. It's when it talks about the murders that happen in that kind of graphic detail. I mean, when you hear someone speaking about it, it's one thing, but then when it's kind of like a semi-recreation of crime scenes, right? So it's kind of like this 3D kind of rendered kind of real-world kind of view of a crime scene. Now, that, you can just say, okay, well, look, that looks pretty graphic about what happened. But then when the producers of the show splice in footage of the actual crime scene, like the real footage, like real still images, should I say, that's where things can get a bit iffy with people, I think, because there's one thing with the Ted Bundy doco and one thing with other documentaries, like The Killing of America, that's full-on graphic. I would not recommend anyone to watch that if you're like, if you found this squeamish, then definitely don't. But I think with Night Stalker, what happened was that people were kind of enjoying it, and then when it got into episode 2 and 3 and into some of the graphic details, and then you see some of these crime scenes, and it's, some of them could be quick flashes, but most of it's kind of lingering on there at times, and I could see how people may get really distressed by that because of the graphic nature. So in the end, I just think that Night Stalker, it had a really good, the way it went about showing the people involved in capturing Ramirez was fantastic, the victim statements as well, but I just think that it was a bit too much with the way they went about, trying to piece together all the crimes. I understand, there was many crimes that happened by Ramirez, and it's quite disturbing, but then to actually go in there and like splice images of that actually happening, I just think was too much. And, I'm someone who's seen The Killing of America, but I think that's what happened. I think that's what the outrage is, and I've seen a lot of articles about people turning it off, people being physically ill and not being able to sleep. I think it's because this whole thing with Netflix and the trending culture that we've got in our society is that people probably, whoever, they're a bit not desensitized to this type of documentary, or if you're not into true crime, then possibly you could get offended or you could be disturbed by the footage. So I really understand that. In the end, though, what can I say? I'm not going to actually give this any type of rating at all, because I just think that it just doesn't really deserve a type of rating. Not because it's a bad show, but mainly because it's just, I would say this: if you're into your true crime and you really like, the crime and investigation channel on whatever, pay TV you have, or you enjoy watching these types of documentaries, then go ahead. But be warned, there is some quite graphic footage that you may think that, I'll be fine with it, but it's a bit more than what I was expecting. Now, when I read those articles, like I said, I thought, it can't be that bad, but it is. So, probably best to stay away if you're, and plus, not that they're glorifying Ramirez as well, but I just think the story is quite sad. What happened, it's tragic. It's just a really scary thing that this thing happened, and there's been other stories like, Ramirez and serial killers. But again, if you're into the true crime, then I, recommend it, but just be warned. Otherwise, stay away and watch something nicer for the night. that's it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this quick review on the Night Stalker. Please hit the subscribe button and ring that bell as well if you want to be notified when I upload. And I'll see you guys soon. Hope you've been enjoying. I'm going to be doing a mixture of things, guys, on my channel. I'm going to be doing TV, movie reviews, still doing that. Still going to do, and I've been doing some playthroughs, some live streams. I thought, why not? So, get the word out there, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Daska Discusses. Boom.